There is a kind of exhaustion that no doctor can diagnose. You are not running, not doing physical labor, and you barely do anything all day. And yet, when night comes, you feel completely drained. Not because of your body, but because your mind has never truly rested. Welcome back to Psychology Made Simple. If you have ever lain in bed at 2 in the morning, eyes closed while your thoughts spin out of control, you know this feeling. The world outside is fast asleep, but inside your head, it feels like a conference room where the lights are never turned off. Old thoughts are dragged back out and dissected all over again. Past conversations suddenly feel strangely important. Situations that have not even happened yet are imagined as if tomorrow were the end of the world. You're not trying to think, but your mind keeps running, as if stopping would cause something terrible to happen. The most painful part is this. You are not thinking because you are idle. You are thinking because you are responsible. You want to do things right. You do not want to make mistakes. You want to be prepared for every possible outcome. But the more you think, the more exhausted you become. The more you analyze, the more stuck you feel. Your mind is like a wheel spinning in place, creating a lot of noise but taking you nowhere. This phenomenon has a very familiar name: overthinking. And if you are experiencing it, you may have wondered whether something is wrong with you, or why other people seem so relaxed while you always feel tense. The truth is, you are not weak. Your mind is not broken. It is simply trying to protect you, but in a way that slowly wears you down. In today's episode of Psychology Made Simple, we are going to unpack overthinking through the lens of behavioral psychology and deeper psychological insight. Not to shut your thoughts off, but to understand why they appear, what they are trying to tell you, and how you can live with your mind without being imprisoned by it. If you have ever felt exhausted just from thinking too much, stay until the end. You may very well see yourself in this story. Before we dive deeper into what is happening inside your mind, let us take a step back and observe the world around us. There is a very clear truth that few people say out loud. We are living in an era that practically forces people to think too much. Never in human history has the brain been required to absorb, process, and respond to such a dense volume of information every single day. The moment you open your phone, you are pulled into a constant stream of news, notifications, emails, social media, and images of other people's lives. Someone has achieved major success at a very young age. Someone else is showing off a new house, a new job, a perfect relationship. Everything looks complete, perfectly timed, and exactly on track. These images pass by so quickly that you barely notice them, yet they leave a quiet impact behind. The brain begins to compare. Not loudly, not dramatically, just small questions appearing more and more often. Am I falling behind? Did I make the wrong decision back then? If I had chosen differently, what would my life look like now? The problem is that the human brain was never designed to live in this kind of environment. It evolved to help us survive in the natural world, where threats were usually clear and had an endpoint. Either there was danger or there was not. In the past, fear had a very concrete shape. Might have been a wild animal nearby or a storm approaching. Once the threat passed, the body could return to a normal state. Today, however, the threats the brain faces are abstract and long-lasting. It is an email you have not replied to, and you do not know what it really means. It is a look from your boss that you cannot tell is normal or loaded with subtext. It is an uncertain future where you do not have enough information to feel safe. These worries do not arrive and then leave. They hover, they linger, and they keep the brain in a constant state of high alert. It is in this kind of environment that overthinking begins to grow. The brain keeps trying to predict every possible outcome, not because you enjoy worrying, but because it believes that if you prepare thoroughly enough, you can avoid pain. The paradox is that instead of making you safer, this process slowly drains you. You feel as if you are always preparing for something that is about to happen, Yet you cannot clearly name what that thing actually is. Your mind never gets a break, even when your body has stopped. If you are feeling exhausted from thinking too much, there is something very important you need to hear right now. This does not mean you are weak. It does not mean you are incompetent or seriously psychologically flawed. In fact, many people who fall into the cycle of overthinking are responsible, sensitive individuals who genuinely want to do things well. Your mind is doing what it believes is necessary to protect you in an unpredictable world. On the outside, you may appear calm, in control, and even successful in the eyes of others. But on the inside, there are conversations that never stop. And you are not alone in this state. Many people around you are living the same way. They just do not talk about it. Overthinking is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you are trying to survive and adapt in an era where the human mind is constantly stretched to its limits. To better understand how overthinking operates in real life, let us look at a very familiar story. The story of Emily. Emily is a typical office worker. She is hardworking, capable, and always tries to complete her tasks carefully and thoroughly. In the eyes of her coworkers, Emily is calm, reliable, and rarely shows her emotions. But what no one sees is the constant stream of thoughts inside her that never truly stops. It all begins on a Friday afternoon, a time when most people should feel lighter because the weekend is almost here. Emily is getting ready to shut down her computer when a message appears in the work group chat. It is from her boss. The message is very short, with no emojis, no explanation, just one simple line. On Monday morning, Emily, please stop by my office for a private talk. That single sentence is enough to make all of Emily's sense of relief disappear instantly. Her heart starts beating faster. A cold sensation runs down her spine. In just a few seconds, Emily's brain switches into emergency mode. It begins scanning everything that has happened recently. Did I submit a report late? Was there a mistake I did not notice? Did I say something inappropriate in last week's meeting? Or worse, could this be a sign of an upcoming round of layoffs? That evening, Emily reopens every email she has sent, reading each sentence again and again. Every period, every comma. She tries to recall every facial expression her boss showed in the most recent meeting, analyzing whether that look was normal or hiding something beneath the surface. When she finally lies down in bed, her body is exhausted, but her mind refuses to rest. One scenario after another plays out in her head, and every single one ends badly. Being fired, losing her income, not being able to pay rent, disappointing her family. From one vague message, Emily's mind jumps straight to a vision of her life falling apart. The weekend passes in a suspended state. Emily meets friends, but is not really present. She eats without tasting the food. Her mind keeps getting pulled back to Monday morning, to her boss's office, to a moment that has not happened yet, but has already been replayed dozens of times in her head. When Monday finally arrives, Emily walks into her boss's office with dark circles under her eyes and slightly trembling hands. And then, completely opposite of what she imagined, her boss smiles and says that the company is about to start a new project with an international partner. They need someone with strong English skills, and he thinks Emily is a great fit. No firing. No disaster, just an offer. In that moment, Emily feels a wave of relief. But right after that comes a sense of emptiness and deep exhaustion. She realizes that she has lost 2 full days of her weekend and burned through a massive amount of mental energy just to cope with a pain that never actually existed. And this is not something that happened only once. It has repeated itself many times throughout her life in different forms. So why does the brain so easily pull us into these spirals? From a behavioral psychology perspective, the first reason is negativity bias. The human brain naturally pays more attention to and remembers negative information more strongly than positive information. This mechanism once helped our ancestors survive, because assuming danger and preparing for the worst-case scenario increased their chances of survival. But in the modern world, where most threats exist mainly in thought rather than reality, this bias causes the brain to automatically fill in the blanks with negative assumptions. The second reason is the illusion of control. When you think continuously, it feels like you are doing something to solve the problem. Worry creates the illusion that you are preparing, being responsible, and not leaving things to chance. But in reality, repeating the same thought loop does not give you more control over the future. It only traps you inside it. Imagined pain, when it lasts long enough, can exhaust the body and mind almost as much as real pain. Another reason is catastrophizing. From a small event, the brain quickly builds a chain of negative consequences, always ending in the worst possible outcome. When this process takes over, the part of the brain responsible for logical thinking and realistic evaluation is gradually overwhelmed by the fear center. That is why, when overthinking is happening, reassurance from others often feels impossible to accept. If we go even deeper, depth psychology suggests that the roots of overthinking often begin very early in life. In childhood, a person may learn that to be safe and loved, they must behave well, do things right, and anticipate the expectations of others. That child grows up believing that mistakes are dangerous and that their self-worth depends on not disappointing anyone. As an adult, this belief does not disappear. It simply changes form. And whenever uncertainty appears, the inner child panics and tries to control everything through thought. At an even deeper level, according to Carl Jung, overthinking can also be a way of avoiding confrontation with our own shadow. Our fears, our fragility, our sense of not being good enough. Instead of sitting with those uncomfortable emotions, we create noise in the mind. Thinking becomes a shield, helping us avoid touching the most vulnerable parts of ourselves. Once we understand this, the next step is not to try to destroy our thoughts, but to change how we view life and ourselves. Philosophies, such as Stoicism, remind us that some things are within our control and some things are not. The tragedy of overthinking lies in trying to control what cannot be controlled. Life will always contain uncertainty. And instead of fighting it with anxiety, we can learn to live alongside it through acceptance. When we look at overthinking from this perspective, perhaps the most important thing to change is not your thoughts themselves, but your relationship with them. Many people believe that peace only comes when the mind becomes completely silent. But that is an unrealistic expectation. The mind is built to think. The issue is not whether thoughts appear, but whether you get carried away by them. Imagine your mind as a vast sky and anxious thoughts as clouds drifting across it. Some days, there are only a few clouds. Some days, the sky is thick and heavy. Sometimes, dark clouds roll in very quickly. But the sky is still there, wide and untouched by the clouds that pass through. You are not the thoughts that appear in your head. You are the space large enough for those thoughts to come and go. That is why, when overthinking hits, forcing yourself to stop thinking almost always backfires. The harder you try to push thoughts away, the more tightly they cling. Instead, try changing your strategy. Observe your thoughts as if you are watching them from the outside, without judgment, without arguing, without trying to fix them. Simply notice that they are present. Alongside that, there are very practical tools that can help keep you from drowning in the stream of thoughts. Writing down everything that is spinning in your head helps move those thoughts out of your mind and onto paper. Setting a specific time each day to worry, instead of letting it take over the entire day, helps your brain understand that it does not need to stay on high alert all the time. And when things become too noisy, returning to your senses, feeling your feet on the ground, the rhythm of your breath, the sounds around you can bring you back to the present moment where no catastrophic scenario is actually happening. It is important to understand that these methods are not meant to erase thoughts. They help create distance. A distance that allows you to stop identifying yourself with the stories your mind is telling. With that space, you can begin to choose how to respond, instead of being swept along automatically. Finally, I want you to remember that overthinking is not an incurable disease, and you are not a failure for thinking too much. In fact, it often shows up in people who are deep, responsible, and genuinely care about the world around them. The real issue is that you have been carrying too much on your own for too long, without enough tools to truly rest. Be gentle with yourself on those long, sleepless nights. When your mind starts to spin, remember that it is not your enemy. It is a part of you trying to protect you in the only way it knows how. Reassure the inner child that you are here, that you do not need to control everything to be safe, and that not everything needs to be solved tonight. Thank you for spending your time with Psychology Made Simple. I hope that when this video ends, you not only understand overthinking more clearly, but also carry with you a sense of lightness, as if the sky inside you has opened just a little wider. I wish you a peaceful night and a freer mind tomorrow.